In his classic book, All Quiet on the Western Front, Erich Remarque follows the experience of a 19-year-old German soldier in World War I whose name was Paul. At one point in the novel, the young soldier is hiding in a shell hole. When an enemy soldier jumps into the same hole to hide, Paul instinctively pulls out a dagger and stabs him. The soldier dies shortly after that. Paul, deeply troubled, looks in the soldier's pocket and discovers that the man's name was Gerald Duval, that he was a printer and obviously poor. This man had been an abstraction, an enemy soldier, but now he becomes all too real for him. He finds a picture of a woman and a child. Moved, he speaks to the dead man. Now, for the first time, I see you are a man like me. I thought of your hand grenades, of your bayonet, and of your rifle. Now I see your wife and your face and our fellowship. Forgive me, comrade. We always see too late. Why do they never tell us that you are poor like us, that your mothers are just as anxious as ours, and that we have the same fear of death and the same dying and the same agony? Forgive me, comrade. How could you be my enemy? We always see it too late. The man was no different than he, but he had been taught that he is. He'd been taught that he was the enemy. What is the primary work of Satan? The primary work of Satan is to divide. It's to divide. And we see it all over the scriptures this morning. In the first reading, the two are prophesying who weren't a part of the group. So Joshua asks Moses to divide the group into two. Moses, my Lord, he says, stop them. And the gospel tells of a similar situation with Jesus. Teacher, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we told him to stop because he was not one of us. Jesus, who is about the work of uniting, not dividing, responds, do not stop him. Whoever is not working against our purposes is working with us. With us. A few years back, I was at a priest council planning meeting in St. Louis here. And there was a minister at the time, still actually, who gets a lot of headlines for his work with the poor here in St. Louis. Major play at the time, especially. And at that meeting, a priest turns to the Archbishop, Archbishop May at the time, and he complained that this guy is doing less than we do for the poor, and he's getting all the attention. And the Archbishop turned to him and simply said, he's doing good. That's all that matters. The priest objected again, but his intentions are all wrong. The Archbishop stopped him in his tracks and said he's doing good. That's all that matters. Satan works to divide. The Holy Spirit works to unite. Satan divides. The Spirit of God unites. Moses and Jesus refused to make arbitrary divisions in the world between people. Jesus will simply not divide, ever. He will not make an enemy out of those doing it another way. But what is it about us that keeps wanting to do that? Why do we give in to that temptation again and again? I don't know what it is in us, but I know what the scriptures say about it. It's demonic. It is the work of Satan to insist that if people don't do things our way, they are our enemy. We do it to each other all the time. We do it in our families, we do it in our schools, we do it in the places we work, and we do it with religion. As I'm sure you know, the word Catholic literally means universal. It means all-embracing. But there are lots of us Catholics who are filled with judgments about other people, who don't follow the same devotional practice or tradition we do. There's lots of priests who look down on lay people and complain about them again and again, and complain about those who are not Catholic in this secular world, and that other priests don't pray like they do. There are a lot of married people who insist that it's not okay if you're not married with them as well. Wars are fought over the very thing which is meant to unite us. Many dread the elections each year because of how much dividing and how much demonizing seems to go on in it. We manage to keep forgetting our common ground. Our common ground is the common good. Our common ground is our common good. And reasonable people can disagree on how to get to that common good. And instead of vilifying and demonizing those who are across the aisle, we need to remember that they are human beings. It sounds so obvious, but when you listen to how we talk, it sure sounds a lot like, to me at least, that we keep forgetting that. And frankly, I'm afraid for myself as things heat up during the debates coming up starting this week, that I'll be one of those people myself who manages to vilify and to demonize the other side. I'm scared of that temptation in me, and I so much admire people who can be passionate about things and not end up there. We do it to people on death row. We do it to people of great wealth, or those receiving Medicaid or welfare benefits. We do it with immigrants and persons with disabilities. But if you check their wallets, you will see pictures in there of their spouses and of their kids and of their grandkids. Why do we always see it too late? Jesus refused to dismiss people, to divide them from us. He refused to put them into categories and make them the ones across the aisle. He always seemed to manage to see the other human being as just that, a person. My priest friends in parishes with grade schools work hard on the issue of bullying in their schools. They work hard and relentlessly on the issue of bullying. And one of them is doing something that seems to be having an effect on his school. To fight against the temptation to bully, or even against individual acts of unkindness, they've developed this process in the morning they call the morning meeting. Every morning, the children and the teacher of each homeroom gather for some significant amount of time to just be aware of each other, to let the rest of the people in that classroom become more real to them. And so they take time to each share some of their hopes, some of their hurts, some of the things they're grateful for, some of the things that scare them. For whenever anyone sees people around us also hurting, also having joys and struggles, they become less of an abstraction and more a person. Therefore, it's so much harder to be mean, because that person's become so real to me. I must not forget what that young soldier learned too late. May God, please God, give us the grace to recognize that all people are poor like each of us, that they have a mother just as anxious as ours. They have kids who can't wait for them to come home at night, and that they have the same fear of death and the same dying and the same agony in life that each of us has. Because we're all in this together. May God help us see that before it's too late.